So a couple things about honey harvesting, just so everybody knows. So let me stand up here. Obviously, you want to harvest your honey after the honey flow or after the nectar flow, and presumably you want to harvest stuff that has been capped. And the reason is you need it to get to a certain percentage of moisture before you consume it. If it's uncapped, there is possibility that it has more moisture than you need, and it will sour over time. So just kind of keep aware of that. Don't harvest your honey. Don't put your honey supers on. I'm sorry, this is obvious, but when you're medicating your hives, right? And any medications you're putting in your hive, make sure you understand the directions of it as to whether you can have supers on and how long you have to wait and all that other stuff. Incidentally, I sent everybody notes of what I'm going to talk about in an email so you could see the highlights of it. We have wildflower honey. There's nobody here that I can think of that has a single source of honey. So you're going to label your stuff properly if you sell it. It's wildflower. Don't cut it with sugar water or anything else. If you're doing things like adding raspberry flavoring and whatever, make sure you label everything properly, right? Do the right thing with it. Everybody's honey is different. Honey from Charlie, honey from me, honey from Stan, honey from any of you, it's all going to be different. There are characteristics in the spring and the fall in your honey as to which one you want to use for what. Darker honey in the fall usually, typically comes from the aster class. It's easier to crystallize. There's different things you could do with your honey. You can eat it as pure honey. You can have it creamed honey. You know, you get a starter, almost like the way you starter with a bread, and you mix it and you get a different texture of it. It gets creamy but not gritty. You can get it in chunk honey, where you literally take the frame out and you carve it up, and you put the, sometimes you'll see the chunk and honey in it. So it's really up to whatever you want, but whatever your objective is for the type of honey you want is the characteristic of how you should go get your honey off the hive. Determine whether you're going to do crush and strain, whether you're going to spit it out, stuff like that. The nomenclature about hive super versus a hive body. So everybody has this great, wonderful argument about this, but typically in New Jersey you have 2 hive boxes, and then anything you put on top for honey is called a super. There are times when you might have a hive box and you take a super and put a hive box, however you want to do it, right? So just nomenclature. What we're going to do, I have 3 hives on the property. We're going to go out to hive number 2. We're going to smoke the hive real lightly, and I have a fume board, which I'm going to explain to you in a second. And we're going to pull one of the boxes off, and we'll bring it back here and we'll talk about how to uncap and get it out. So people use different size boxes for honey supers. You could use a full box, but when it's full of honey, it could weigh 100 pounds. So if you look in the notes that I sent, I won't go crazy about this, 70 pounds, 50 pounds, whatever the case may be, depending on how much they load it. Most people use mediums. Some people just don't want to carry that much weight. They use a real shallow one. When you have a hive box and a hive box, typically the brood chamber stays down there. There are occasions where you put a honey super on and the queen will move up. And you're going to have brood in there. The way you want to get around that is you might consider a queen excluder. You just put one of these between your, there's many different kinds, this is just one that I have. You put one of these between your hive box and your supers. Queen can't get up, but the bees can. If you put one of those between your hive box and your supers, and you don't have built-out foundation above in the super, the bees aren't going to come up. They may, but it's difficult. And when you want to try and get them to load your honey super, you're going to have foundation. It would be better to have some drawn-out comb in there to bring them up to that space. And if you give them more room, they will come up there and fill it up too. So there's a bunch of different ways to get a bee out of the box, and we talk about this guy right here. This is a fume board. This is the product you put on it. It comes in a box with a MSDS sheet. It's methyl ethyl death. I don't know, I always joke about that. You know, anything that comes with MSDS, I don't know about that. And if you look at what this stuff has, the MSDS says, harmful by inhalation, harmful with contact of skin, harmful if swallowed, causes burns to eyes, irritating the respiratory system, irritating the skin. Read the directions and use the stuff right, okay? You only need a couple drops of this. I'm going to pass this around. It's not dangerous, incidentally. So this one, it's not dangerous to handle. Bottom line is, if you overload yourself, it doesn't have skull and crossbones on it, sorry. If you overload yourself with this, you know, you're going to be in trouble. But you're only supposed to use a couple drops. Really, drops. I'm talking about drops, not, you know, Zorro spray. This is butyric acid, this particular one.
Well, it has a stench.
It's a fatty acid occurring from the form of esters in animal fats and plant oils. It's from nature, right? It's just, it is what it is. They sell something else, by the way, and my recommendation is, and I happen to have this one unfortunately, or I go buy the other one. They sell something called Fisher's Bee Quick. I don't know. I know, Stan, I saw it at your place. It smells like maraschino cherries, and incidentally, they tried to get this one to smell like it too, right? It's a non-toxic blend of natural oils and herbal extracts that doesn't require MSDS. So methyl ethyl death or non, you take your choice. It's called Fisher's Bee Quick, okay? The Fisher's Bee Quick stuff, by the way, when you buy that, they make a donation to the Eastern Apiculture Society. So there's an added benefit. And they have some stuff on their website that I won't spoil. You should go do it. So I'm just going to pass this around. You don't have to put it up to your nose to smell it. You can probably smell it from here.
But you don't want to really.
But if you want to look at the container, you're welcome to.
You don't want to get that on.
I didn't hear you. I know. Yeah.
I use the bee brush.
Wait 1 second. There's another product out there called Bee Gone, and there are other products besides those, but Bee Gone, this stuff, and Fisher's Bee Quick are the three most popular. Question?
Do you have any experience using an escape board, the triangle?
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to talk about next. I don't have one, and I have no experience with one, but I know the principle of it, right? So they have a board. It's a flat board with an edge on it, and inside of it, it has this triangle pattern on it with the pieces matched like this. They don't come to a close. And the science behind it is the bee will always walk against its one shoulder and never go the other direction. So the bee will come through the hole, walk along the edge, and exit back into the hive, but it will not come back the other way and find its way to the hole and go back in. So a bee escape board is another way. Look, back in Egyptian times, when they kept bees, they didn't have skateboards, they didn't have butyric acid, they use a brush. Typical brush. You can bang them off, do whatever.
They also had slaves that they could just make do whatever they wanted.
Commercial beekeepers will actually take a blower and blow the bees off, which I always thought was strange, but apparently it's very common. And they'll just open a box, blow the thing out, and close it up and be done with it.
Your basic leaf blower, you go to the Home Depot and you get the flexible tubing, the flexible stuff, you know. And there you are. You remove one of the nozzles from the blower, the gas power motor, get some duct tape, tape her on, and you're in business. You go start it up on the ground, have somebody like your daughter pull the trigger, give you a little volume, grandson, and you can blow the bees right out. Works like a charm.
There's a triangle thing. There's also a bee trap. You can get you can fit into an inner cover. That's what I use. You know the inner cover, the hole in that. You can put this bee trap in the middle.
Yes,
It works in a similar
it
way.
fits up underneath the inner cover. Right. Oh, my train of thought. Oh, the last piece on this. In the old days, don't know if anybody even knows about this, there was a product called carbolic acid that they used in a similar manner. If you have this stuff, get rid of it, don't use it. You're not supposed to use that anymore. I want to share one other thing to you. today is a good day, right, to do this. Or when you want to do this, you want to do it in a warm condition. The first year that I did this, we went out, I guess Sharon, it was September or October, and we got stung 1,000 times trying to get the honey off the hive. And then we brought it in and we stood in the garage and I spun until my arm about fell off and we couldn't figure out what we were doing wrong, and we called somebody and they said, it's October, it's 60 degrees, the honey's not going to come out. And last year we had the same thing. We just had such a busy summer. We took our frames and put them in the oven, set it to 100 degrees. It's no different than if it were 100 degrees outside. And it didn't melt the wax, but it loosened the honey up and we got it right out. So, you know, you'll go through your adventure if you've never done this. And I will caution you that when you do it, I would not recommend you do it in your kitchen because everything gets sticky. Everything gets sticky. You know, put cardboard down and do whatever. So at this point, I'm going to light my smoker. I'm going to get my gear on. I'm going to go over to Hive 2. You're all welcome to traipse over, or you can mill around and sign our paperwork and do whatever, and we'll take a little break. And then when I bring the frames back, we'll get into uncapping them.